Okay, I'll just have to cut that part out then.
All right.
I didn't think it would let me.
Right. I am very, very happy to be here for the first time with this particular roundtable with the gorgeous ladies, Megan Rose and Sherri Divband. You ladies are not going to need really an introduction to my listeners, but today we are going to really be talking about something that I think is really close to all of our hearts and very, very important, in my opinion, at the moment to what's going on, is the messages from our animals and what animals can teach us humans with what we're going through at the moment. And all of us are really, really close to our relationships with our animals, both through personal experience and also through our work. So we thought it would be a lovely discussion to have, to share some of our messages that we've been getting, experiences, etc., to help anyone that's watching this. So let's start with you, Megan. I have not spoken to you face to face before. How are you doing? I think all my listeners know you, but tell us about some of your connection with animals.
Oh, animals are my passion. So I could talk about them all day long, but I work at a horse barn part-time and I post a lot of my horsey videos on Telegram. And then I also, in my personal home, have 2 cats and 2 dogs. But, you know, animals, I found that their souls are so special because they're so pure. And that makes them excellent healers. So for someone who, oh yeah, look at them. So for someone like myself who's been through a lot of trauma, they make excellent healers for trauma survivors because they're really good at holding the frequency of love. And when you go through trauma, you can't heal it through like a logical perspective. You have to process the emotions of the trauma and then it releases through your body. So animals like horses, I love being around because their emotional intelligence is insane and their auric fields are like very large, super expanded, and they can actually hear your heartbeat from 7 feet away. So they really are in tune. Horses specifically, they're not necessarily like intelligent, like brain smart, but they're emotionally intelligent and they're very good at feeling emotions and then releasing them. So being around that energy is just, it's nice. It's why so many, you know, there's always so many horse girls around. We love horses. So
Yeah,
Yes.
honestly, don't we just? So, Sherri, tell us a little bit about your love and passion for animals.
Oh my gosh. Animals, my first love. You know, I could, like Megan, I could talk about animals all day because they saved my life. You know, like I was just so shy and so afraid of people for various reasons growing up. And the animals were all I had. I desperately wanted a brother or sister. My mom was very, very young when she had me. She was a teen mom. So, you know, a sibling wasn't in the cards for a long time. And then by the time she was ready and old enough, it was just, you know, I was too old and it never happened for me. So I used to talk to my German Shepherd growing up, and we had a cat named Jazz, and I would just, you know, those were my siblings. And I just had such a deep emotional bond with animals. And they're so unconditional. And I think like what Megan said is that's a lesson that I learned early in life, very young. No one taught that to me. They did. It's just no matter what's going on in the world, they love you unconditionally, no matter how happy you are, angry, sad, you know, how emotional. They're always to me, they were always a stability in the home or wherever I was. And so they helped me to remain balanced. And I took my dog everywhere. When I was old enough to drive, Chelsea, she went everywhere with me. I mean, she'd just get in the car and like she would just be with me all the time. And so, you know, they really helped me through some of the darkest periods of my life, which is, you know, why I thought I was going to be a vet and I was going to work with animals only. And I used to tell people, I hate people and I'll never work with people. And look at me now, right? That's funny. But, you know, they come into your life for a reason, for everybody. And for me, I think they taught me unconditional love and how to open my heart and how to heal and how to forgive. And they taught me valuable lessons. And I think that for me, I needed to have that experience before to prepare me to be able to work with people and then to prepare to work with children. And so for me, animals were my everything. And, you know, it's funny, I just want to share something that happened yesterday before I forget. So so we just moved to Florida and we're not used to having a garage, you know, in Maryland. We never had a garage. And in Virginia, I always lived in apartments. We didn't have garages. So we have this garage and we rarely leave it open. But yesterday, for whatever reason, my husband put the car in there and left it open for many hours. And he comes out and runs back inside. He said, "Oh my God, you guys come outside." I thought it was like a cockroach or something. I was like, "What is it?" Because the way his face was. And he's like, "You guys got to come out here." So at the door to get in the home, goes into the laundry room. As soon as you open the door right there was this huge, massive turtle. I have pictures of it, this big. And it was just like looking up, like, I'm like, "Are you trying to get in the house?" So of course, me being the animal person in the home, I picked him up, put it in the wheelbarrow, and I was going to take him down to the lake. I figured, like, how did you get all the way? Where are you going? Right. Well, I saw a post from my friend Kimberly Palm yesterday on Facebook saying she had this dream about a turtle, and I won't get too far into it. Well, someone else said, "Oh my God, a turtle was in front of my house yesterday." And I was like, "Oh my gosh, me too." I said, "What are the turtles trying to tell us?" I hadn't even thought about it. And then I sat with it. And what they told me is that the turtles, first of all, animals in general, and you guys can share, are here to bring great guidance right now and knowledge for us, for human beings. They're trying to talk to us, desperately giving us signs. Well, the turtle, what they were trying to tell me is that the turtles hold great wisdom. I mean, they've been around forever, and they are like trees. They're filled with knowledge. I mean, they have so much information for us. And this turtle, this beautiful, sweet turtle, was trying to teach us to tap in to our innate wisdom and our innate knowing that, one, everything is going to be okay. And two, to trust ourselves and trust the wisdom within us. And I think that that was a message that I needed to get out, which is why it was like literally in front of our face. I couldn't miss it. And I was running the other day, and there was a turtle in the middle of the street. And I picked it up and brought it over. And I'm like, this is the second time. And I think this time, I finally got the message. So I want to share that with everybody who's watching, because maybe there's a message in there for one of you watching this, that you've seen turtles, or they have a message for you. And I really think it's about trusting our intuition, trusting our gut, and just pulling in that innate wisdom that we have right now, because we are what we should be trusting right now. And so I just wanted to share that with you both.
Oh, I love it. I mean, this is why we can't stop smiling, all the three of us, because we're all so in love with animals. I mean, I'm really lucky that I've never lived without animals. So my mum and dad were animal mad as well. So my mum really loved all animals and wasn't particularly keen on having children. so then she decided she wanted one boy, and she got three girls. So when I was growing up, if you wanted to know where my mum was, she was out with the guinea pigs or out with the dogs or something. It was hysterical. And I've got, at the moment, I'm lucky enough, I've got Pumpkin behind me there. I'm lucky enough to have 5 cats, 2 horses, 2 dogs, down to 2 dogs now, just lost one, 3 guinea pigs and 2 rabbits that I'm sort of personally sharing my life with. But I also work with animals of all species as well. A lot of work with horses, but with animals of all species. But I've got to laugh with what you've just said then, Sherri. So this weekend, well, yesterday and today. So yesterday I was walking my horses up to another field, and it's a beautiful walk up through the woods. And I was just literally tuning in and thinking, I'm so excited to be having this chat about animals with Megan and Sherri. I've been so looking forward to this, because I just haven't seen many people talking about the wisdom of what they can teach us, and how we can learn from each other and grow together. So I was literally leading the 2 horses up this little country lane, and I was just tuning in and sort of saying, oh, there's so much to talk about tomorrow. Where should I start? And then this beautiful heron flew along, and literally flew along as I was leading the horses up. It was beautiful. Now, I have seen this heron before in one of the local ponds, but I've never, ever, ever seen it off the pond. And it followed me the whole way along the lane, and then the whole way up the track. So I came back and I looked up the spiritual significance for heron, and I've got a few points I do want to share in a minute. And then this morning I was out on a very wet and windy dog walk, and I was literally saying, thank you so much, Heron. That was so amazing, that message that you sent me, because there's some really good things to share with Sherri and Megan. And then literally, I kid you not, a white little egret. Now, I have never, ever, ever seen an egret near here. It's not the type of countryside for them at all. They're such beautiful. In the UK, we get the little egrets, not the great big ones. I've seen that. I knew what it was because my dad was really into birds and everything. So I recognized straight away what it was. And it did exactly the same. It flew right past me with the dogs, stopped on a branch and then threw right back. And can I just quickly, before we move on, read you some of these messages for them?
Yeah.
Because I've never seen an egret, and I've never seen that heron out of his pond home. So it was definitely 2 days in a row. So spiritual significances of herons. So I'm just looking over here because I'm reading it. Herons are symbolic of balance and stability, self-reliance, tact, wisdom, and knowledge. These birds are perceptive and grounded and have a deep sense of contentment in everything they do. It's the balance in the mind that can make the balance in the body possible. And since they've attained inner stability, they display it in their physical world as well. Herons are symbolic of self-reliance. They might be social and connect deeply with their life partners, but their individuality shines brightest of all. Above all, these birds are symbolic of wisdom and knowledge, taking a larger picture and perspective. I thought, how relevant is this to what's going on now? And then egrets are a symbol of purity, strength, balance, concentration. Because they enjoy solitude, their spirit represents freedom and independence. They are known as messengers of various gods and goddesses. They're very least concerned about what goes on around them. This is a consistent theme from what I've been getting from the animals. They're a symbolism of freedom and independence. Their solitary lifestyle has made their spirits so self-reliant that they are capable of caring for themselves, and they can teach us a valuable lesson of how true freedom comes from knowing that you've got your back and nobody else for your happiness and contentment.
Wow.
Isn't that amazing?
That I was going to bring up a point which kind of aligns with that. What's interesting, what we can learn from the animals is when they go through trauma or have a traumatic experience, whether you have a horse that's been abused or a dog, they don't form a limiting belief about themselves like I am bad.
Yeah.
They associate it with something external to them. So they always have a positive outlook for themselves, or they always continue to not think I love myself, but I am love. So they never associate like I was abused because I'm not worthy or I'm a bad person like the humans do. They just associate it with that experience. Like maybe I'm a horse and I had a bad experience on a trailer. They'll associate that with I'm not going on the trailer anymore. There's something bad about me. And I think when we talk about healing the human race, most of us on this planet have been traumatized to some extent where we've formed limiting beliefs about who we are, and that's kept us enslaved or not able to express ourselves. But animals aren't like that. They just have such a way of expressing themselves that can't be contained, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I absolutely resonate with that. And that's why it hurts so much when I see animals being abused. It just kills me because, you know, they'll just keep coming back to their abuser. They'll just keep, you know, they get hit and they'll lick them in the face. And I've seen it. You know, I've worked at animal hospitals my whole life for 20 years, and I saw it. And it used to break my heart. And I used to want to rescue those animals and take them home. And I wanted to shout at them, you don't deserve this animal, you know, because they'll just keep coming back and they just give you more love. And I think they're trying to shatter that belief system, that program, because the owner themselves clearly are the ones feeling shame. And, you know, Catherine, you and I did an episode on that a while ago, I think one of our first, where I did an animal communication business for a while early on. And I stopped. And the reason I did is because I felt like this broken record, repeatedly having to tell the client, I'm sorry, but the animal's modeling your behavior. You're the one that we need to work on. You're the one that needs help, because our animals will mirror our attitude, our personality, and it comes out and it reveals itself in a really raw way. And people think the animal has this behavioral issue, when in fact, the owner really needs to dig deep inside and start some healing themselves, because they're the ones that are the ones that are having the behavioral issues that the animal is modeling. And they would get so upset with me. And, you know, many were receptive, but a lot were not. And I just said, God, I can't do this anymore. You know, like the animal, I'm not doing any service to the animal I'm not helping them if I can't get through to the owner. And so, you know, I just decided to step back. But, you know, they embody unconditional love. And right now we have a puppy. Her name is Luna. She's a golden retriever, and she chose me. I can't tell you how fast we had this dog. Like, I wasn't looking for another dog. I had an idea a while back, like we'll have many animals at Aramis Creative Learning Center, and I wanted to have a dog for the center that we would take to work with us every day, and she would roam the hallways. Well, we have a Doberman, and there's absolutely no way this particular dog is suited for that, so it couldn't be him. So I thought, well, maybe one of the other mentors or somebody will have an animal, and we'll have like a therapy animal for the children. Within like a couple of weeks ago, it all happened so fast. This is how animals, they help us, they guide us in the right direction. I was at the farmer's market. I saw this beautiful dog. I started talking to the owner, telling me about the breed. It doesn't matter. And we were just talking about rescuing this particular breed because there's many of them in Florida. And it got me thinking, well, maybe I'll rescue this particular dog if there's so many of them in Florida. Anyways, it took me down this rabbit hole, and I saw this golden retriever. And I thought, oh, what a great dog for children. No joke, within 2 days, I had a golden retriever in my house, and my husband was like, wow, like, were you going to ask anybody? And I was like, I didn't, like, it just happened so fast. I said, we have to have this dog. I'm telling you, she came to me. She said, I'm going to help the children. I'm going to be part of your family. Don't worry. Your dog is going to love me like the Doberman. Cause I thought, oh my gosh, are they going to get along? Everybody in the house is like, she has shifted the entire home. My husband's like heart is melted for her, and he's like, I don't want another dog. He's like, I love her so much. The kids are just over the moon happy with her. Our Doberman, I've never seen him so balanced, so happy, so energized. Like, she is just brought life in. Not that he was down, but Dobermans are bred to be very astute, very protective, always on guard. This poor dog never relaxes. He's constantly like trying to protect somebody. So he never really relaxes. We can't take him for walks. He can only play in the dog park, and we have a little like Nerf fire, gun, and he chases it, goes crazy. But like, if any other dogs are around, he freaks out. He's not a very chill dog. She has done something to him, like just completely changed his behavior. I mean, she's absolutely beautiful spirit. So animals come into our life sometimes when we aren't expecting them and we weren't prepared for it, but they'll come into your life and shift everything for you. And now we have her, and I can't wait for her to be around as many children as possible, because I think that that's what we have her for. Is she's going to make an incredible therapy dog for children that are dealing, like Megan said. We have so many children that are coming out of these last few years with so many issues, PTSD, trauma, all sorts of things, behavioral issues because they haven't been socialized, all sorts of things. And they're not there. And I've noticed it with the children that my children are hanging out with. We're meeting lots of new people here. None of them are socialized. None of them know how to act around. They're like, their mom's like, oh, they haven't had a play date in years. They don't know how to act around other children. It's something important that we need to, the community should be talking about solution-based ideas for the children. And I think animals are a great way, because when you bring an animal into the equation, whether it's a horse or a farm animal or whatever it is, or a dog, cat, it lights these children up, and it's just like they forget that they're shy. They forget that they haven't played with another child for years. It's like they're themselves. They take that fear out, and it's really beautiful.
I love it. I think you're so right. I think they just come to you at the right time, and they break boundaries so well. I mean, I still do a lot of animal communication, and to me, the biggest gift of these last 3 years has been a complete breakthrough in a lot of the people that I'm working with their animals, and them getting things that they didn't even question before. It brings tears to my eyes when I think about it, because the clients that I'm working with now, because somehow weirdly I ended up being on YouTube, I've still got no idea how that happened, but the people who are coming, and I will say I find the Americans are even more open. They are coming with a completely different level of awareness than I've ever found before, because I really empathize with what you said, Sherri, that I've been working as a holistic therapist with animals for years and years, doing a whole range of different modalities. And it got to the stage where I had to back off quite a lot, because I was finding I didn't have the skills myself to emotionally deal with the constant abuse that humans give animals. And by abuse, I'm not talking about conscious abuse. Obviously, there's people that really abuse animals, I'm talking about the unconscious abuse by what we consider it normal, about how, you know, we all work closely with horses. You know, for me, how people keep horses now is abuse, most of it. But the people think that they're spoiling their horses, and they think they're giving it the best because they're looking at it through human eyes and not animals. But over the last few years, the people that have been coming to me, because they've been listening to the same sort of stuff we have, watching, they've completely coming with an open mindset, and they're questioning the medication they're giving the animals. They're questioning these sort of things. They're questioning how they keep them. But the thing that's just really given me real hope, so much hope, is they're questioning the choices. They're realizing that the animals in their lives, even though we all do the best we can with the knowledge and the circumstances we've got, they're realizing, because they've been through it the last few years, how devastating it is to take choice away from an animal and impose your way of life, the environment. Take a horse, you know, no horse is designed to live in a stall or stable. They might tolerate it, and they might prefer it to being in a muddy field on their own, but they're herd animals. They're designed to be out, moving tens of kilometers a day, finding their own natural shelter, finding their own thing, living with, using all their senses. It's like when you hear grass-fed beef, it's just ludicrous. No cows in the wild live off grass. They're foragers, they browse, they live off a whole variety. You know, typical horse in the wild will eat up to 70 species a week. And what do we give them? So I'm not saying that for the thing, but it's really given me hope for humanity. And I think a lot of what I've heard you talk about, Megan, which is why I so wanted to speak to you about this, just sums it up so well, is when you do change the way you look at things, everything changes. And it's not about beating ourselves up. In all the years I've been working with animals, I've never heard an animal blame a human for anything, but they communicate so clearly and so directly, without all this needing to beat around the bush, without the ego getting in the way. They're not doing it from a place of blame or guilt. They're doing it from a place of pure honesty and love. And what I'm finding now is there's a lot of humans that are ready to heal that. And I have noticed a big shift in that, which is lovely.
They're always talking to us. I don't know if I'm the best teacher of how to communicate with animals, because it's just something that I've done, which is why I've liked them, you know, since I was a little kid, because I could telepathically connect with their energy and they don't have any bad thoughts. So I always felt safe around them. Yeah. But they, you know, a lot of the horses that I work with don't want to be ridden. They don't want to be show horses. It's traumatizing to them. Yeah. There's speaking of being a herd animal, stallions are kept alone in a stall a lot of the times because they can't be herd animals, because they will kill the other geldings, the fixed male horses, or they'll try to impregnate the mares. So our stallion at the barn is in a field by himself, and he's turned out for 2 hours a day. And that's the owner's choice. That's not our choice, but he's not happy, you know. He's kept in a stall most of the day, which is sad. So I was making a joke. I was going to make a sign outside of his stall that said "Geld me," so he could be turned out with the other ponies, you know. Or there was something, me and my friends had this other idea where you can actually get, if you want to breed them, get the sperm and freeze it and then geld them so that they can be turned out, which is a good idea. But they're always communicating, and they communicate through the heart. So if you learn to step outside of your head, the logical mind, and into your heart, then they'll communicate with you. And I had a dream about one of the horses. His name's Griffin, and he was unhappy or angry or upset. And I woke up the next day and I went to the barn and I was grooming him, and I knew he was going to kick me. I knew he had a thought, I'm going to kick, and he kicked me. And the next few days we were riding him, and he's trying to throw the trainer off and I mean, really like bucking and rearing. And I just felt, I was like, okay, he's in pain. He's not trying to be mean, and he's not trying to hurt anyone. He's communicating, I'm in pain and I need help. and I need to see the vet, you know. I also feel personally like he doesn't want to be ridden. He's trying to be retired, like there's pain, and he also wants to be retired. So I feel that might be in his future, but it takes a long time for the owners to accept that that's what the horse wants, you know. But it does, I have noticed people being more open to listening, but we have our human perception of things, like we've invested a lot of money. Some of these horses are $20,000 to $60,000, and if they are in pain, or if something happens where they can't be ridden the way that the human wants to ride them, then it's a loss for the human, but the horse, it's what the horse needs. So there's a financial component to it as well. But they're always, you know, the horses are very interesting with their personalities. You know, you have one, and it's probably the same for the animals in your home. Like my little dog, he's the boss of the whole operation. You know, and so you have in the herd the boss mare, or the gelding, the older gelding, who's the boss of everyone and is the protector, you know. So their personalities are interesting as well, and I love being around them. So I also wanted to point out, Sherri, too, my slightly off topic, but not really, about the children, what COVID has done to the children and traumatizing them, because my nieces were somewhere around 5 and 7 years old during the whole COVID pandemic. And imagine being that young and believing that the world is going to end, or that you're going to seriously catch something and that you or your family member could die. I mean, that is mentally traumatizing. And that's they're too young to understand that it's just maybe something that has happened in life. And so I think it's really important to highlight that aspect in the healing, because the children having to wear a mask, go to school, not being able to breathe every day, there's a trauma there that needs to be healed.
Gosh, I could go on a long time about that, because I saw it, and I was a big anti, you know, face diaper, and my kids, you know, well, one of the three really went against me a couple of times out of peer pressure from the other kids putting her down. And she would say, my mom told me not to wear it. And then she'd say, Mommy, I need to wear it. And I'm like, you don't, you know. And it was a big debate in the house, and I want her to feel comfortable, but you know, there was a lot of pressure from children. Well, my mom said this, my mom said this, you know, my parents said this, we can't do that. And it really, you know, really caused a lot of arguments, and the children's confidence has gone down significantly from then. And I can see it with my children, not less with my children, because I work overtime with bringing them back up all the time. You know, that's one thing that I think I do really well. But even my teenage son, not to get into a debate about certain things, but I'll just speak in code. All of his friends 100% got something, and he wasn't even allowed to consider it. That I pulled mom card with that, because he's 17 and I don't need to go any further. And he was questioning me, and he said, well, everyone else did it. And we really sat and talked, and I wanted him to have the ability to make a choice, and and not just mom trumping, you know, his ability to choose. And he made his choice, and he's not, but he was feeling like he was being, you know, left out with his friends, and he felt really self-conscious about it. And so there's that whole other aspect of it as well, and who's allowed to play together and who's not allowed to play together. And it's really caused a lot of emotional turbulence in homes and with children. And I feel right now it's all about rebuilding their confidence and their sense of self, their sense of their intuition, rebuilding that back up, but a sense of security and stability. And that starts with the home. You know, it has to start with mom and dad, or caregivers, grandparents, whomever they live with. They have to feel that they have a place in the world where they feel safe no matter what. And that's how we start rebuilding these children back up. because it's different. Each one of these children has a different personality, as do the three of us, and so they're going to respond to traumas differently. And some of them are fighters, and they're going to debate and be, you know, headstrong about certain things. No matter what their age. I've seen 4-year-olds that will argue me under the table about something. And not argue, but they're very, you know, outspoken when I do sessions with them. No, I'm doing this, and my mom said this, and I'm going to do it. And I'm like, whoa, you know, like, you know, you go, girl, like you stand by your truth, your sense of truth, you know, and your knowing. And then there are others that are complete opposite and everything in between. And we have to respond to that as in an individual basis, as opposed to, our society is so built upon this notion of this one size fits all approach on everything. Everybody gets healed this way. Everybody should do this way. And it's not. We have to recognize that each person is an individual. They heal differently, they react differently, and they need different things. And that is harder. And people don't like it when it's more hard, and they want it to be easy. They want it to simple fix, because we're like based on this egocentric, you know, quick fix. But I'll circle back
as well.
Yeah, same thing.
That applies to the animals, because how often do people, even people who are very considerate pet animal parents, or, you know, whether it's a horse or a guinea pig or a dog or a cat or a goldfish, it doesn't matter, or a sheep. But look, how many times do we talk a lot about boundaries, and we want people to respect our boundaries, but how often do we respect the animals' boundaries? When I used to do some of my in-person courses, you know, I'd wait too, because I teach a lot of herbal medicine and herbal remedies with animals as well. I'd just wait till all the delegates were sitting down for lunch, and then I'd go and grab them up and sort of say, come on you go now. And by the way, I'm just going to, you know, take your mouth shut and your nose shut and make you run around the yard and see how you feel. And by the way, I'll put metal trainers on as well. You know, we're talking about horses now, but it's so amazing, just because we think something's right and it's been done for a while. You know, horses were never designed to have metal shoes on all the time. They had metal shoes to go off to war, and they were meant to have them taken off, and then it became a sign of wealth, that, you know, it was a status system symbol if you could afford shoes on your horse, so people did it there. But you imagine if I asked you to go out doing your jogging with metal trainers on, or if you put a metal bit in a dog's mouth, you'd be done for dog abuse. And if you put a collar around your child and started, when they got excited, yanking on it, you'd be done for child abuse, you know. But it's interesting. I'm loving the fact that so many of these conversations are happening now. Like, you've opened up the whole world with the children, and people are now realizing that they've got to look at that in other areas of their life as well. And most importantly, you know, their animals as well, because people don't do it intentionally, do they? They genuinely think that's the way to do it. And it's only then when someone triggers something to ask. Where I am, Megan, what you were saying, it's everyone's into dressage around here. Now I take my ponies out for walks. I walk miles with them rather than riding them. And actually Romeo doesn't, Charlie's too small, but Romeo doesn't mind being ridden at all. He's quite happy either way. But I don't use a bit. I just ride in a head collar. Don't use a saddle. They're not shod. But when people see me out on rides, that even people that have seen me for years, what's wrong with your horse? Is there something wrong that you can't ride it? I'm just like, no, I'm just enjoying walking with him. But you are so right, you know, because people have bought this with an intention that they want to jump it, or dressage, or show, or cross country, whatever it might be, or barrel racing, whatever. If that human desire is taken away, but you know that it's not a motorbike, it's a living sentient being. And we've seen what it's like to not be able to have people push on our boundaries and to take our choices away from us. I mean, you know, people say my dog doesn't like the vet. Well, imagine if every time you went to the doctor, you were tied down and you had no choice, and they injected or shoved something into you that you knew was poisoning you. Because their senses are so aware, they can energetically, they can self-select what they need to heal.
Yeah.
Fascinating subject. But I really feel it's shifting. I do feel a lot of people are more open now to having these conversations.
Go ahead, Megan, go ahead.
I was going to say, sometimes like the animals are too, it depends on their personality, but sometimes the horses are too sweet to tell you they're in pain too. Like, you might be able to feel it maybe a little bit, maybe if you're not a sensitive person, you wouldn't, but they really want to please and do their job and, you know, be a good boy or whatever. And sometimes they're really too sweet, like Griffin, to try and buck you off. You know, Griffin is vocal. That's his personality. If he doesn't want to do something, he will tell you and he'll kick you. And, you know, that's the way it is. Some horses are different and their personalities are different. So they'll really try really hard and they might actually become very injured before it's noticeable. That, you know, they're already lame, they have an abscess, and you know, you wouldn't really know because they are trying to, they'll absorb the owner's energy as well and try to heal it. And then they're excellent light workers because they'll project it back out. So a lot of times, unknowingly, it's in their nature to be healers. So they're also trying to absorb and heal and transmute certain vibrations. So some of them are better at doing that than others. And they're too to tell you that I'm actually in pain. So it's important to pay attention to them, I think.
God, you're so right, Megan. You're so right about that. When I used to work at the zoo, I worked at the zoo for 10 years, and I've worked with pretty much every animal aside from a few that we didn't have. And they were so they're treated very well. So I'm not knocking the particular zoo that I was at. It was probably one of the best I've ever seen. And the keepers treated these animals like family, you know, so it wasn't one of those bad situations. But at the end of the day, a lot of these animals, you know, they wanted to please a lot of the keepers, and they would do a lot of things, you know, that they didn't necessarily want to do. And part of this whole egocentric system that we have too, with this hierarchy that we are better than the animals, or we own them, is a notion that I have issue with. And not even just with the great example you guys gave about dressage. And you know, a lot of these people do spend a lot of money, so they're invested in these horses and other animals. It's not even just horses. And, you know, we forget the value that this is a sentient being. This animal has its own spirit and should have its own free will, and they don't. And one of the things that used to really get to me at the zoo was when we would do electro ejaculation, you know, stimulation, and the pandas. And I had it with we did it with cheetahs, pandas, many different animals. But the pandas, it was a big thing every single year because the pandas are all owned by China. So we don't actually own, they're borrowed at every zoo. So we do whatever, you know, they're told and we're told. And every year when this particular panda was in heat, in the springtime, we would go off her cycle. So 2-3 in the morning, our whole staff would be at the zoo preparing to do the electro stimulation, the ejaculation, which is quite traumatic to watch. I hated it. I'm not even going to share that with the audience because it's quite traumatic what they do and how they do it. And their thought process of them being asleep, not feeling it, absolutely not true. But I won't go into that any further. But then the female immediately is inseminated. And if she doesn't get pregnant, then they do it 2 or 3 days in a row, or I'm sorry, 2 or 3 sessions within a 24-hour cycle. So the whole staff we're all there, and it's a huge deal. And, you know, you only get that one shot. And then if she doesn't get pregnant, we do it again the following year. Well, I went through that about 4 or 5 times before I stopped going on that rotation. And I used to ask that poor panda, like, is this what you want? And she poor thing told me, I'm done with this. I don't want to do this anymore. Now, what is a vet tech, you know, going to tell the staff, oh, don't do this because the panda bear told me she doesn't like it? Of course, like, I have no say. So I had to hold that information, and I felt really guilty about it because, well, I couldn't do anything about it. And it's just one of the many reasons I chose to leave the zoo. But that's just one of many examples of things that we do, and we play God as human beings. And we have to get these animals out of these systems of possession, because they're not possessed. They're not our possessions. And I think that when the money system changes and we no longer are investing all of this money in the circuit of, let's say, dressage, or show horses, and it's not about money anymore, then perhaps these animals will retain their free will once again. But there are so many things that are wrong, I guess, with our system. And I wanted to share really quickly before I pass it on. I had a session just a few days ago with a lovely little boy. I can't remember his age. I think he was 8. Anyways, he is from Telos, so he's a Telosian boy from Inner Earth. And his life purpose, the reason he's here, his journey here, is to teach us to rebuild. When we rebuild this world and we start to our archetype and architect, how do you say that? Become like the new architects of the new world and redesign. How can we do that where we respect the earth, the animals, and nature? So there's a whole slew of them coming in to teach us how to do it in a way where we're not destroying the earth around us by building these giant cities, because they know how to do it in a way that is not going to tear everything down. They know how to build within the ecosystem, and where they come from, everything is naturally built, and they don't harm any animal, anybody. And they're going to teach us how to do that. And I thought, wow, what a beautiful thing that we can look forward to when I personally have all of these negative memories, that look at what we have, something positive to hold on to in the future, where there is a chance for us to reestablish that human and animal bond and nature, bringing the three together. I think it's really beautiful. So I wanted to share that really quickly without giving any more information about this boy, because I didn't ask his mother's permission to share any of this, but I'm sure she'd be okay with just that part.
Beautiful. Megan, with your connection, because you're working sort of day in, day out, sort of with the horses, for example, there goes Pumpkin. What would be some of the key things that you would say that the animals would really want us humans to know right now?
I feel what the animals are really good at is taking care of each other. And they really work like, there's 4 mares that I turn out. They go in the same paddock, and one is the boss. 2 of them are like best friends, and then there's an older one and a younger one. And they all have their unique personalities. There is a hierarchy, but they all learn, and not all of them like each other at first, by the way. They don't always get along, but they learn to live together, and they learn to coexist in the paddock and respect each other's boundaries and communicate in an effective way. And I think that's something that we as humans, we don't really know where our boundaries are, and we don't always know how to enforce them in a polite, respectful way. And we tend to see each other, because there's been mind control programming. We tend to see other people, if they conflict with our idea of life, we see them as a threat and we attack each other. So what's different about the animals is they eventually may not like each other at first when you first turn them out, or they're new to meeting each other, but they eventually tend to work together to survive. And humans, we're different, where we try to destroy each other, which is very strange. We have all of these wars where we're fighting with our own people, which is very interesting, and killing each other and attacking each other because we believe in different things. And so I think what the animals can teach us is to work together, and that we're all on the same team.
Oh God, I love that. I agree with that so much. That's just beautiful. What about you, Sherri?
I agree with that so much. I was kind of laughing inside as you were saying that, because I can't tell you how many times I received similar messages from the animal clients back in the day, and they would literally ask, like, they would be like, "Why are you guys fighting with each other? Like, we would never do that in the wild." And the sad thing about that, Megan and Catherine, is that one of the biggest messages that I received about why animals go extinct or have been extinct is, yes, because of the nefarious reasons of hunting and trades and things like that for ivory and etc. Because of man, a lot of them chose to leave because they didn't want to be in this environment coexisting with us anymore, because we are so disrespectful and we haven't had any boundaries, and we fight each other. And if we're going to kill each other, why would we respect them if we don't respect each other? And I think that that's a beautiful message that Megan just brought up, because that's what it is about. And, years later, they said, well, we will come back. And I said, really? And they said, yeah, we'll be back, but not in the way that you would understand. And then it was years after that where I understood what they were saying, is that as we ascend and we shift, and most of us, I believe, will go into a higher density and into a beautiful reality where we can coexist, we will be meeting them there. It's not that they're coming back to us. We're just going to go to a space where they are already waiting. And I think that that's a beautiful thing. But until then, I think that animals choose different roles, and especially domestic animals. They truly come into our lives to help us, to play a role, to support, to guide, to protect, to give unconditional love, nourishment in the emotional sense. And I think that they're here really to be our buddies, and they play very specific roles. And then the exotic animals and everybody, there's such a delicate balance. Everybody's playing their role. And I think a lot of it has to do with teaching us many different variations of things that we have become lost as a group, as a large group, because of programming, though. And a lot of it has been from manipulation. So they're helping us find ourselves once again and navigate back to that inner knowing of, yeah, we know everything that we need to know. The wisdom is all within us. We just need to trust, and they're trying to help us. They're hurting us. You know what I mean? They're hurting us back to find ourselves. They just play different roles in how they do that. And I just think they're just my favorite, like you two. I just cherish, respect, and love them so much for all that they do for us every single day.
We're so lucky. Sorry.
I just wanted to interject really quickly, as I wanted to bring up the Native American way of life, where they believe that we're all one, animals included, and animals are equals. And they all of the animals have different meanings like totem animals. You can look that up. But they all have a different purpose, and they're all part of one source. So I think we've been indoctrinated to believe with spiritual practices that God is separate from us, when really we're all God, and so are the animals. So
Oh, 100%. That's so true. It really resonates with me. And I think, going back to what the Heron said this morning, when you've got that, for me, they teach us so much about inner stability. There's not a single animal on this planet that's waiting for a Mr. T to come and save them. They know that they've got all the skills themselves within whatever their whether it's a herd animal, whether it's a pack animal, whatever it is, they know they've got the resources there, and they trust that. And it makes me laugh, really. And when I say it makes me laugh, I'm laughing at myself here. I'm not laughing at other people. I am laughing at myself, because we humans strive so hard for our spiritual awakening, to be in the present moment, but they're just there. There's no striving with the animals. They are there. And when a human decides they're going to look about how to feed their dog or cat more appropriately, I've never heard a dog saying, well, I wish you bloody thought of that 5 years ago. They're just, thanks, Mum.
Yes.
Yeah. They move forward. There's no time wasted with an animal in regret. I've never heard if they're so willing to take whatever's offered to them there and then and move forward with it, rather than waste. They don't waste their energy sort of saying, well, last week you gave me kibble and that really there's just none of that. And I think for us, yes, it's lovely, it's exciting thinking about having these things to look forward to, but now is what we've really got. And you can't spend time with an animal. They know when to rest, they know when to forage, they know when to play. They can shake off their trauma pretty effectively if the humans let them. And I think we're so lucky to have them as our teachers. No.
Absolutely.
Love-
My Doberman, he's so funny. I laugh when you said that, because he's the only animal I've ever had. I know they're all grateful for their dinner, all of them. Okay. But this particular dog, every single time he's eaten, and he's almost 3, for his whole life, he comes to either myself or my husband, still with food on his face, because he's just so excited to come, and he wants to lick us, and he's telling us thank you every single time he eats. He comes back and gives thanks, and we're like, you're welcome, we love you too, like we talk to him, out loud, and he understands. This dog understands everything, and I'm like, look how grateful this dog is to eat, and he's so happy to be in our presence. Like, I want to be that happy all the time. I want to be embodying such grateful I want to be that grateful for every moment of my life, and I look at him, and he's teaching me that, I think, because I try to live that way. Every time I eat, I'm like, well, I'm grateful for this orange juice right now. I'm grateful for this. What a beautiful day outside. I'm so grateful for this. And like, so sometimes they change you, and you don't even realize until you look back, and you're like, thanks, thank you, for helping me. I didn't even think about it until now. I think that, they surprise us, and they're just so happy, and they're just so unconditional. And it's like, no matter what, like, I'll yell at Luna, but like, Luna, no pee-pee in the house, and she looks down, and she gets down, and I'm just like, gosh darn it, immediately I'm like, it's okay. Like, I still love you, because she's just, she's like, I'm so sorry, I upset you. I won't pee in the house again, like, and I'm like, what, it's my fault. I should have taken you out fast. I should have noticed, so like, it's this beautiful relationship that, imagine if all of us human beings treated each other that way. And even like immediately after I yelled at her, I'm like, no, Luna. And she looks at me, and I'm like, oh, it's okay. Like, imagine if 2 adults did that. And then they're like, it's okay, I love you anyways. Like, maybe I played a role. Maybe it's my fault. Like, sometimes we got to, admit that we were wrong, not the other person. And how amazing would the world be if we acted more like them?
What's great about them is they allow a thought to come in, and then the thought goes out. And they don't hook onto a thought and then make it about them or personalize it. So they are excellent allowers. Whereas humans, we have a thought, and we think sometimes that that's us, or that it's coming from us, where it's really just the collective consciousness, or it could be 5G, or it could be something else. But they just let it go in and let it go out, and they don't identify with it. So they're excellent allowers. And they do have egos. Like my little dog, his name is Rex. He'll bark, if he hears a car or something, and he just feels like, I'm doing my job. There's a threat here. I'm going to take care of it. I'm going to bark and then it will go away, and then it's over. And I've done my job. But that's not necessarily who I am. That's just what I have to do in the moment. And then it's gone. And so they're really good this is why they're good at healing, because they're good at letting go, allowing and letting go. And a lot of us can't let stuff go. We're hanging on for dear life because we're afraid, but they don't have that fear. They just whoosh, it's in.
And the unfortunate part about that is that they take on our trapped emotions. They're like, let me take it on for you. And then that's what happened. That's how they become disbalanced, is because they take on too much. And majority of them, when they end up sick or they have some dis-ease, is because they've taken on too much of our emotional trauma to try to help us. And then they become clogged. And then then they need healing. But they're so unconditional about it. They're like, let me take all of it for you, because they like, exactly like you said, it comes in, they pass it right through, and then they keep on living. Life just keeps on going for them. And they take on so much for us.
Yeah, they'll balance. Like if I'm at a lower frequency, my horse at a higher frequency, he'll take on some of that energy. So that's like an automatic thing. And humans do that too. Like someone who's highly empathic may be born into a really dysfunctional family to balance or heal or break that karmic cycle. So yeah, I think that's why empathic people are really drawn to the animals too, because they kind of have the same purpose.
Yeah, we get each other. So well, I'm very, very grateful for you two. I really am. And I'm really grateful for the animals for letting us have this discussion. And I would say anyone who's watching this, if you're lucky enough to have animals in your life in any form, whether they share your home with you or whether you can just go out into nature and interact with them, I would really say just develop those skills again. Every single child has it and is born with it, in terms of just being able to ask and see what comes to you, because so many of the things you're worried about, they've got a really quick, easy solution for you. You just need to ask.
Yes.
So brilliant. Yeah. Anything else, Sherri, before we finish?
Well, you know what I was just going to say is Catherine has some absolutely incredible videos for those of you out there willing to try something new, some holistic, natural remedies for pets. I've seen a bunch of your videos. I even watched the one on natural flea, and I think it was flea and tick powder. And I was fascinated. I watched the whole thing and I made notes and everything. I'm like, man, you're a wealth of knowledge, Catherine. You have lots and lots of tips. And so I highly recommend anyone to go and check out your website and your videos, because you have so many incredible videos. And I think it's great resource for people with pets that are trying to do something different for their pets and want to try something new, you know? So I just wanted to tell everybody that real quick.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
Anything else from you, Megan?
I don't think so. Just that I enjoyed this conversation, and thank you for having me. And yeah, definitely, if you have been through trauma, there's equine therapy, and I'll have to check out your work, Catherine. And yeah, thanks, guys.
Yeah.
Go hug those dogs. We'll be back soon. Thank you so much for anyone that's watched. I hope you've enjoyed it. Take care.
Take care, everybody. Bye.